Hello and welcome to Lamplighter. Today is July 4. Happy Independence Day. Today in our daily Bible reading, we start to read about Hezekiah, who is now the king of Judah. Over the last couple of days, we have looked at the idea that Hezekiah is a good king, unlike his father Ahaz, who went before him. Ahaz was one of the more wicked kings of Judah, and Hezekiah is so good that he's compared to David. So a great transition from evil to good when Ahaz dies and Hezekiah, his son, becomes the king. In today's reading, we'll start to see some of the wonderful reforms brought about by Hezekiah. It appears that Judah may still have hope of getting it right. Before God brings neighboring nations to carry them into exile, they actually have a chance to repent and make things right. And in today's reading, it looks like they're well on the way to doing that. We begin with some discussion of what Hezekiah is doing as king. And first, he orders that the temple be cleansed. In the first month of the first year of his reign, he opened the doors of the temple of the Lord and repaired them. He brought in the priests and the Levites, assembled them in the square on the east side, and said, "Listen to me, Levites. Consecrate yourselves now, and consecrate the temple of the Lord, the God of your fathers. Remove all defilement from the sanctuary. Our fathers were unfaithful. They did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Therefore, the anger of the Lord has fallen on Judah and Jerusalem. He has made them an object of dread and horror and scorn, as you can see with your own eyes. Now I intend," Hezekiah says, "to make a covenant with the Lord, the God of Israel, so that his fierce anger will turn away from us." So it's a very good start for Hezekiah. Now the Levites are going to be named here, and they're going to respond obediently to Hezekiah's command. They began the consecration on the first day of the first month, and by the 8th day of the month, they reached the portico of the Lord. And here's what they say: "We have prepared and consecrated all the articles that King Ahaz removed in his unfaithfulness while he was king. They are now in front of the Lord's altar." So when they have done this, the temple is going to be reconsecrated. Early the next morning, King Hezekiah gathered the city officials together and went up to the temple of the Lord. And they bring offerings, and they try to make everything right, not only with themselves, but with the temple of the Lord. Hezekiah stations the Levites in the temple of the Lord with musical instruments to bring praise as the people are trying to get their lives right with God. When the offerings are finished, the king and everyone presents with him, and they kneel down and they worship God. And Hezekiah says, "You've now dedicated yourselves to the Lord, so come and bring sacrifices and thank offerings to the temple of the Lord." And all whose hearts were willing did this. They all brought burnt offerings. The Levites had been more conscientious in consecrating themselves than the priests had been, and so they have a very important function to play. And the service of the temple of the Lord, when all is said and done, is reestablished. Hezekiah and all the people, we're told, rejoiced at what God had brought about for his people, because it was done so quickly. Now they decide it's time to celebrate the Passover. And not only are they going to celebrate the Passover in Judah, but Hezekiah is going to send couriers throughout all the land of Israel, the northern tribes. Now, these nations have been at war with each other, as we've seen throughout our readings, but Hezekiah is trying to unite the divided kingdom. He wants to invite everyone to come to the Passover. Now, many people are going to reject his invitation, but there are some from neighboring tribes who will come, who will make that journey south. Here's the message Hezekiah sends to them: "People of Israel, return to the Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that he may return to you who are left, who have escaped from the hand of the kings of Assyria. Do not be like your fathers and brothers who were unfaithful to the Lord, the God of their fathers, so that he made them an object of horror, as you see. Do not be stiff-necked as your fathers were. Submit to the Lord. Come to the sanctuary which he has consecrated forever. Serve the Lord your God, so that his fierce anger will turn away from you. If you return to the Lord, then your brothers and your children will be shown compassion by their captors and will come back to this land. For the Lord your God is gracious and compassionate. He will not turn his face from you if you return to him. So he's begging and pleading with them to come and celebrate the Passover. Now the people scorned and ridiculed this notice for the most part, but there were some men of Asher, Manasseh, and Zebulun who humbled themselves and went to Jerusalem. Also in Judah, the hand of God was on the people to give them the unity of mind to carry out what the king and his officials had ordered, following the word of the Lord. So they actually observed the Passover, and we're told that they do so in the second month. They go through and make sure that everything they do in the observation of the Passover is done specifically as God had required of Moses and the people so long ago. Now, although most of the many people who came from Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, and Zebulun had not purified themselves, yet they ate the Passover, contrary to what was written. But Hezekiah prayed for them, saying, "May the Lord who is good pardon everyone who sets his heart on seeking God. The Lord, the God of his fathers, even if he's not clean according to the rules of the sanctuary." And the Lord heard Hezekiah and healed the people. So Hezekiah realizes that they've been journeying, that they've been out of favor with God, that they have not consecrated themselves, and he prays for them, and God hears their prayer. He wants to make sure that the Passover is observed and respected and honored by the God to whom it is given. Hezekiah spoke encouragingly to all the Levites who showed good understanding of the service of the Lord. The second week is observed because the priests were not able to get themselves consecrated early enough for the first offering of the Passover. But if you remember when we studied back at the time the Passover was put into place, this was an allowance that God made for special conditions like this one. Then after observing the Passover, they're going to attack idolatry. They're going to start to pull down idols and shatter Asherah poles and so on, because a cleansing is going on not only of the people, but of the entire land, trying to get everything back to the way it once was. Some other religious reforms take place. Hezekiah assigned the priests and Levites to divisions, each of them according to their duties as priests or Levites, to keep on offering burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, to minister, to give thanks, to sing praises at the gates of the Lord's dwelling. He ordered the people living in Jerusalem to give the portion due the priests and Levites, like they had once been commanded to do, so that they could devote themselves to the law of the Lord. Now watch this. As soon as the order went out, the Israelites generously gave the first fruits of their grain, new wine, oil, and honey, and all that the fields produced. They brought a great amount, a tithe of everything. The men of Israel and Judah who lived in the towns of Judah also brought a tithe of their herds and flocks, and a tithe of the holy things dedicated to the Lord their God. And they piled them in heaps. They began doing this in the third month and finished in the seventh month. For 4 months, they're bringing all of these offerings. When Hezekiah and his officials came and saw the heaps, they praised the Lord and blessed the people of Israel. God is going to bless them because they are being so generous, as we've seen. This is what Hezekiah is doing throughout Judah, doing what was good and right and faithful before the Lord his God in everything that he undertook in the service of God and in the service of God's temple, and in obedience to the law and the commands. He sought his God and worked wholeheartedly. And these are the last words of our reading today. And so he prospered. There it is again. Do what God says. Seek to honor him with your life. Be obedient to his commands, specifically as he has commanded, and you will ultimately prosper. Isn't it great to be a lamplighter? His word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. I hope you have a blessed day.